Breaking news. Nigel Farage has forced an emergency debate that tore into Prime Minister Keir Starmer on the floor of the House of Commons, live and unfiltered. What unfolded at 2:47 p.m. this afternoon sent shockwaves far beyond Westminster, rippling across two continents and, according to senior political figures, wiping out any realistic hope of Labour surviving the next general election. What followed may be studied for decades as the moment Britain's political establishment visibly cracked. Understanding what happened now is critical, because the next 72 hours could reshape the country's future. Here is what triggered one of the most brutal parliamentary confrontations in modern British history. Just 3 hours earlier, Nigel Farage rose in the Commons and invoked Standing Order 24, the parliamentary equivalent of a nuclear option, forcing an immediate emergency debate on an issue judged to be of urgent national importance. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Labour MPs froze as it became clear this was no routine policy argument or budget clash. Farage's words were calm but deliberate. He called on the House to debate the Prime Minister's fitness to govern, citing what he described as credible evidence that Keir Starmer had knowingly misled Parliament over foreign involvement in British immigration policy. The word knowingly hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Starmer did not back away. Instead, he sprang to his feet and made what many observers now describe as the single worst tactical mistake of his premiership. His face flushed deep red, and journalists in the press gallery noted that he appeared visibly shaken with anger. Addressing the chamber, he launched into a furious personal attack, accusing the honourable gentleman from Clecton of spreading conspiracy theories and dangerous fantasies. He insisted there was no evidence because no evidence existed, and dismissed the motion as a desperate stunt by a desperate man leading a party that would never govern Britain. The outburst was raw, emotional, and instantly damaging. Farage did not respond in kind. He stood calmly, a manila folder in his hand, almost smiling. When he rose to speak, his tone was controlled and devastating. Addressing the Speaker, he said he was in possession of documents obtained through Freedom of Information requests that told a very different story. He asked why the Prime Minister's office had met European Union migration officials 17 times in the past 6 months, why those meetings were never disclosed to Parliament, and why leaked emails showed discussions about migrant quotas that were never announced to the British public. The reaction was immediate. Conservative benches erupted into cheers, while Labour backbenchers sat in stunned silence. Within minutes, the Speaker approved the emergency debate. By 3:12 p.m., the gavel had fallen, and Sir Keir Starmer had walked straight into a political trap of his own making. As Westminster spiraled into chaos, the rest of the country watched with rising anger. British pensioners who worked for decades and paid into the system their entire lives are now struggling to heat their homes this winter. Just yesterday morning, outside a food bank in Sunderland, 71-year-old widow Margaret Wilson spoke through tears. Her husband served in the Falklands. She worked as an NHS nurse for 38 years. Now, she says, she must choose between heating and eating, because her pension no longer covers either. She told reporters that she gave everything to her country and now feels invisible, while people who cross the channel are placed in hotels with 3 meals a day. At the same time, British veterans are sleeping rough on the streets of London, while illegal migrants receive full medical care, taxpayer-funded legal support, and accommodation costing an estimated £7 million a day. According to leaked Home Office figures, many pensioners are left to struggle. Heated rooms, regular meals, mobile phones, and cash allowances are now more than what many elderly Britons receive each week. The contrast has become so sharp, so morally damaging, that even lifelong Labour voters are leaving the party in record numbers. A poll released this morning shows that 68% of Britons believe the government cares more about looking compassionate to foreigners than protecting the citizens who built the nation. This is no longer a party-political argument. It reflects a growing national belief that the social contract has broken down. The anger deepens when the numbers are examined. Data from the Department for Work and Pensions shows that 127,000 British pensioners applied for winter fuel payment support last month alone, a 340% increase on the previous year. These are people who rebuilt post-war Britain, paid taxes for decades, and followed every rule, only to be told there is no money to help them. Meanwhile, the Home Office quietly approved a £180 million contract for migrant accommodation in hotels across southern England. The deal was signed on November 3rd at 11:47 p.m. A timing critics say was chosen to avoid close parliamentary scrutiny. When Labour backbencher Rosie Duffield demanded answers, she was told the move was routine procurement, a description that has angered voters who see nearly £200 million spent on hotel rooms while elderly Britons sit in cold homes. The sense of betrayal has cut so deep that even Labour's most loyal supporters are walking away. John Patterson, a retired steelworker from Sheffield who voted Labour in every election since 1979, told Sky News he was finished with the party. He said they had forgotten who they were meant to represent. His voice cracked as he spoke, and many viewers recognized not political performance, but genuine heartbreak from a man watching his country change beyond recognition. Then came a moment nobody expected. At 4:23 p.m., as the emergency debate continued, King Charles broke with decades of royal convention. Speaking at a reception for Commonwealth diplomats at Buckingham Palace, he was expected to deliver ceremonial remarks about shared values and historic ties. Instead, according to those present, the king moved away from his prepared text and delivered words that stunned the room. He spoke about democratic institutions resting on truth, openness, and the sacred trust between those who govern and those who are governed, warning that when that trust is damaged, the very foundations of the constitutional monarchy are put at risk. Palace insiders later confirmed that these remarks were not included in the approved speech. Constitutional experts immediately understood the importance of what had happened. Professor James Reynolds of Cambridge described it as the most pointed intervention by a British monarch since the abdication crisis, widely seen as a direct and powerful signal to Downing Street. The consequences were fast and severe. By 5:30 p.m., the pound had fallen by 1.8% against the dollar, and around £2.3 billion had been wiped from the FTSE 100 in a single trading session. Investors were not reacting to political theatre, but to instability, and Britain suddenly looked fragile. Inside the Labour Party, internal divisions burst into open conflict. A WhatsApp group known as Labour Future erupted with hundreds of messages in less than 2 hours. Leaked screenshots showed MPs using words like catastrophic, finished, and leadership challenge. Former Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, who had remained loyal through every previous controversy, reportedly sent a private message that later became public, bluntly stating that the situation could no longer be defended. 7 junior ministers requested emergency meetings with the chief whip, not to discuss policy, but succession. Online, hashtags demanding Starmer's resignation trended globally for 6 consecutive hours, driven by viral clips of the Prime Minister's furious Commons outburst, analyzed and mocked faster than Labour's communications team could respond. By early evening, protests broke out across Manchester, Birmingham, and Newcastle. Thousands gathered, many elderly, many veterans, waving Union Jacks and demanding accountability. Police estimated more than 12,000 people assembled in Manchester alone by 7 p.m. These were not organized rallies by political parties, but spontaneous gatherings of ordinary citizens, a clear sign that public anger had moved beyond the control of any politician. International reaction followed quickly. At 6:15 p.m., French President Emmanuel Macron told France 24 that while France values its relationship with Britain, it needs partners who can speak with one voice and honor their commitments. It was a diplomatic rebuke with little room for interpretation. In Brussels, the European Commission released a statement saying it was watching developments in London with concern and hoped for a swift resolution, language widely understood as a warning. Even Washington weighed in, with a senior U.S. State Department official telling Reuters that the administration was monitoring events closely and expected Britain to resolve its internal political challenges quickly. For a country long associated with constitutional stability, being cautioned by allies marked a deep humiliation. Inside Number 10, sources described an atmosphere of near-total panic. Shouting matches echoed through corridors, and Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner was reportedly heard slamming a door so hard during an argument with Starmer that security staff feared something had broken. Chancellor Rachel Reeves was overheard telling aides that the situation amounted to political suicide and that someone needed to stop the collapse before nothing was left to save. WhatsApp groups titled Plan B in Emergency Cabinet began circulating scenarios that would have been unthinkable just 2 days earlier. The question now is no longer whether Labour will move against its leader, but when. Senior figures normally loyal to Starmer have gone silent, with Foreign Secretary David Lammy cancelling scheduled television appearances amid reports that he is drafting a resignation letter. As Sir Keir Starmer left the Commons chamber, witnesses said he looked utterly broken, his hands shaking and his composure gone.